Cage-siders.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Cage-siders. Jeremy Long on the line now with Sweet Ray Flores. Now, I know people don't call him Sweet Ray Flores, but that's the nickname I'm going to give you because you need a nickname, man. I think Sweet Ray Flores or Sugar Ray Flores.
I appreciate it, Jeremy. Always a pleasure to join you, my man. And, greetings. Love Las Vegas. You certainly do a great job. And there's certainly a lot to get to once again when it comes to the world of combat sports.
Man, we are all trying to make sense of what's happening right now between Canelo, Triple G, this rematch. A couple of weeks ago, they find trace amounts of clenbuterol in his system. Not uncommon for Mexican, Chinese descent fighters for these things to pop up. Of course, a couple of years ago, we had Francisco Vargas. We had a UFC fighter of Chinese descent, lives in China on the mainland. These tests pop up. Ultimately, they don't serve any suspensions or anything. What are you hearing? What's the latest with Canelo Triple G?
Well, what I'm hearing, Jeremy, is that it doesn't look good. It does not appear as though the fight will take place May 5th. I've read reports and have heard from my sources that ticket refunds are being offered by the MGM. I've also heard reports that Golovkin is getting ready for a replacement opponent. I have seen that the Nevada State Athletic Commission has delayed their initial hearing of April 10th. They filed a complaint against Canelo. That's been moved to April 16th. So the longer this gets delayed and prolonged, the worse it is for Canelo Alvarez. So I know that he tested positive for trace amounts, and then another test came back 2 days before, which said it was 10 times above the limit from clenbuterol. Now, I'm not a physicist or a chemist at all, Jeremy, but if it's 10 times above the limit, I highly doubt you do that by just eating some tainted meat.
Yeah, that's the big thing, of course, was that, the tainted meat, we've seen it before, but there's something else. There's a little bit more smoke to where, there's smoke, there's fire, and that was enough for Nevada State Athletic Commission Executive Director Bob Bennett to file a formal complaint against Canelo. Now, ultimately, Canelo has, of course, due process coming to him and things like that. But when you look at it, a lot of fight fans online through social channels, they're venting their anger. They can't believe that one of the biggest, youngest stars in boxing would do this. He should know better. How fair is it for fans to, I've seen some claims out there like, he's a multimillionaire. He should fly in his own meat. He should know better. At this point, should Canelo know better and do something to prevent stuff like this from happening?
Jeremy, absolutely. Here's the thing, is that when you are at that level and you know that random testing is happening and you know that there is this issue going on in where you are residing in that country, you have to be smarter. Because I know Canelo Alvarez is going to get his due process. But let's be honest here, Jeremy. If you, myself, or any one of your listeners and your viewers, if we get caught with a banned substance in our system, our employer is not going to say, you had tainted meats, or they're not going to listen to any excuse. We are going to be punished immediately because we had a foreign substance in our body that was not allowed by our employer. So for Canelo to try to get this sympathy from people is, I think, asinine to me. He should be under the same amount of microscope and scrutiny like anybody else. He broke the rules, whether it was tainted meat, whether it was a cream, doesn't matter. He broke the rules. He will have his due process, but people have every right to criticize Canelo Alvarez.
And ultimately, at this point, if you get a formal complaint filed against you from the Nevada State Athletic Commission, we have not seen too many times where they've just let it fly by or a slap on the wrist. This is, at minimum, a 1-year suspension. Now, they could cut that in half. You're looking at 6 months. Not until August 17th would he be able to fight. They could. Do you think, in your opinion, they remake this fight? Do you think Triple G waits around for Canelo and they do it again on Mexican Independence Day?
I could totally see that, Jeremy. That is where I think my mindset is. I think that's where a lot of people are probably thinking that will take place. But Golovkin has said, Jeremy, that he is preparing and wants to fight, whether or not it's Canelo or not, in May. So I don't know if Triple G is going to wait on the sidelines. I mean, he's already been pretty firmly entrenched in camp. So I could see Triple G fighting somebody else. And you and I spoke last night. There's a litany of options out there. But I could see, look, with the way the Nevada State Athletic Commission is right now, and I know Bob Bennett. I think Bob is a very fair guy, and I think he does a solid job. He cannot not give a suspension to Canelo, because if they just let this go, then that looks awful for the Nevada State Athletic Commission.
Right.
And I can't see Bob Bennett, unless Canelo is able to prove something so conclusive that really made it seem like he was totally wronged in the due process. I see at least a 6-month suspension.
Wow. Yeah. Ultimately, what kind of impact, if he's found guilty by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, what kind of impact does this have on Canelo's legacy? Do you think ultimately it's going to impact it at all, or is it just going to be a blip on the radar?
No, I think it'll impact it, Jeremy, because, he tested positive for a banned substance.
Right.
And here's where I want people to really focus on. It wasn't just the trace amounts in the second test. The first test 2 days before is 10 times above.
Right.
That is what set off the alarm with me. With Francisco Vargas, and he fought Orlando Salido, he got cleared. It's like, okay, trace amounts, I get it, a little bit of tainted meat, whatever. But this guy, Canelo, 10 times above, that needs to be the lead story to me, Jeremy. Is like, how could this even be possible? You came out, you had your alibi, all tainted meat, blah, blah. Okay, we get that. But then it has been released that you're 10 times above the legal limits. There's no way some bad meat or you're eating some bad steak. There's no way. So, in my opinion, you knew exactly what you were putting into your body. And clenbuterol helps you when it comes to your conditioning. It has a lot of complementary effects in regards to your training. So I think this will affect Canelo Alvarez's legacy. I don't think it'll fully destroy it. But here's what I know, Jeremy. The Mexican fight fans did not like how the fight played out when it came to the decision, and how Canelo was very arrogant following the draw that happened in September of last year, how he was very dismissive of Golovkin. Now, with this, Mexican fight fans across the world don't like cheaters, but especially Mexican fight fans because they love honest, talented, tough fighters. Golovkin is a very prominent figure when it comes to the Mexican fight community. They like him. He's humble. He has a great smile. He works hard to try to learn Spanish. He comes forward. He says he has Mexican style. Mexican fight fans love that. I think Canelo, if you were to fight Triple G a second time at the T-Mobile Arena, that building is going to be split because Canelo, his fan base, has taken a significant hit.
Wow. And if you had to put money on an opponent, replacement opponent for Triple G, who would you bet on for a May 5th replacement?
I could see Daniel Jacobs, but that all plays into Eddie Hearn because Eddie Hearn promotes Daniel Jacobs. Tickets have gone on sale for his fight with Maciej Sulecki on April 28th. Mm-hmm. I think that should be the most logical choice, and I'll tell you why, Jeremy. Because the fact that Jacobs is preparing for April 28th and Golovkin was preparing for May 5th, their time schedule when it comes to training is about the same.
Right.
So I could totally see that fight. I think that is the most logical fight based on how close it was the first time. I can also see a Sergey Derevyanchenko, who is the number one mandatory to the IPF title. And I know Deryachenko actually did his fight a couple of weeks ago, or at the beginning of the month in Brooklyn. I'm sure that he's already prepared to go. Now, people are talking about, well, what about Billy Joe Saunders, et cetera, et cetera. Billy Joe Saunders got hurt, and his fight got pushed back, I think, to like June 23rd. So I think that's off the radar. Demetrius Andrade is a slick southpaw, ready to go now. But I don't know if Golovkin wants to deal with that kind of stylistic nightmare when it comes to such a quick opponent change. So to me, the names are Jacobs or Deryachenko for May 5th. And will the fight take place on regular HBO or HBO pay-per-view?
Yeah, that's going to be a huge deciding factor there. I mean, typically the last few years, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo has been a huge money-making date for boxing in itself. So whether we get the pay-per-view or regular HBO, it's going to be, I mean, that's the difference between tens of millions of dollars for HBO and the promoters and ultimately the fighters and things like that. So a lot at stake with not only the outcome of the hearing with Canelo and the state of Nevada, but also the fighters and replacements themselves. So a lot on the line. We're talking to Ray Flores, world-renowned commentator, play-by-play man, ring announcer. He does it all for MMA and boxing. While I have you on the line, man, I know you got busy. You're busy and you got things to do. But Parker and Joshua coming up tomorrow. Man, break it down for me real quick. What do you see the last day heading into this mega heavyweight fight?
Jeremy, I'm excited, man. I'm really excited because we saw what Deontay Wilder was able to do against Luis Ortiz. Now it's Anthony Joshua's turn to go and get center stage against Joseph Parker. You being in Vegas, I've seen crazy odds that list Joseph Parker as a massive underdog. I think that's a little off base because Parker is still a heavyweight champion. I know Anthony Joshua is really good and very talented, but I think the odds makers have it too lopsided, in my opinion, Jeremy. I think that Parker is going to show some underrated boxing ability, but Anthony Joshua is still Anthony Joshua, a 100% knockout percentage, been a heavyweight champion of the world, has faced adversity, and I know that Joshua has lost about 10 to 15 pounds over the course of, this training camp. He didn't look particularly good against Carlos Takam, and he says he's lighter, he's quicker. We'll see some of that tomorrow. But make no mistake, Joseph Parker has thunder in his fist. And if he touches Anthony Joshua, because Joshua, for the most part, over these last couple fights, has gotten rocked to a degree at least one time during the course of the fight. So if Parker is able to touch Anthony Joshua and get him hurt, will he have the ability to finish him off? And when does he rock Anthony Joshua? If he does it early in the round, how will Joshua respond? I think Joshua outclasses him in like the 9th or the 10th round by TKO. And then we'll see what happens when it comes to the Deontay Wilder-Anthony Joshua fight. When it comes to Las Vegas, Jeremy, I don't think there is a better place for a big prize fight in the world. But I think Wilder and Joshua needs to happen at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas in August. The question is, will Eddie Hearn and will Anthony Joshua come to the table and say, let's get it done? Everyone I talked to, Lou DiBella of DiBella Entertainment, Deontay Wilder, those surrounding Deontay, they're ready to make this fight happen. And people say, well, the fight should have to be at Wembley Stadium. No, it should not, because the fight fans from the UK will travel across the pond to go to Las Vegas. That is the perfect place. T-Mobile Arena, August, public workouts outside. That's what needs to happen if Joshua is successful over Joseph Parker.
Man, it sounds like you have skin in the game. Drawing that fight to Vegas, you get 5%, right? Yeah, I think you get a percentage off top, man. I'm not worried about it. That's all right. It's Vegas. Everyone's got their hand in it. I think I get a percentage too. Now, and of course, it's going to be the big fight. It's going to be the big deal as long as everyone does their job. Anthony Joshua takes care of Parker. I don't believe these Vegas odds. I think they're fool's odds right now. A lot of money is probably going to come in on Parker late because of the underdog status. People looking for the upset, for the to clean up at the bookie. But you know what? I'm not buying it. Joseph Parker is not a pushover. And like you've noted, Anthony Joshua has been rocked. He has been dropped. I ultimately think he's going to win, but I don't think it's going to be as big of a pushover as people are thinking. In your opinion, if Anthony Joshua would have connected on Deontay Wilder like Luis Ortiz connected on Deontay Wilder, do you think that would have been lights out for Deontay there?
I think so, but it all depends. Here's the thing, Jeremy. It all depends on what part of the round it would have happened in. So it's weird when it comes to heavyweight boxing. These guys are so big and strong and lumbering that if Josh was able to, if you're able to clutch onto a guy in the last 30 seconds, for lighter guys, maybe you might not be able to last, but heavyweights can because of how big and how strong in their weight.
Right.
I think Joshua has that finishing ability, and that's what makes the fight potentially with Deontay Wilder so fascinating. Either guy has shown vulnerability. Either guy has shown a propensity to finish their opponents. Both guys have had their backs against the wall. Both guys have come back from what looked like defeats to get the victories. That's why this fight is so damn exciting, because you have two guys that have erasers. Deontay more so with that one-punch knockout power.
Right.
Anthony Joshua with the better, pure, technical boxing ability. Also, you have the fact that Wilder is crazy athletic, more athletic than Joshua. Joshua, the gold medalist. It's just such a compelling fight. I think this is the biggest fight in world boxing that we have seen. And, dating back, I know I'm not going back a long time, but dating back to last year to get to Floyd and Conor.
Right.
But this one has significant meaning. Like this is heavyweight unification. And people always talk about where's the status of boxing. The heavyweight division is the richest it has been in 20 years. And this fight needs to take place, as I mentioned, in Las Vegas. And forget November, because I love Vegas at all times of the year, Jeremy. But, man, July, August, when that sun is beaming down and the pools are rocking during the week and you got the weigh-ins going on at 2 or 3 o'clock, let's get it rock and rolling, my man, because Vegas is going to be on fire for that fight.
I am telling you, I am right there with you, man. That would be the best time to do it. Your ring card girls in bikinis. Everyone's out there sipping margaritas, mojitos, watching these two huge human beings throw bombs, man. I am right there with you. And before I let you go, we got a big fight at the Joint at the Hard Rock Hotel next weekend. Arislandi Lara versus Lara-Hurd. Very quickly, who are you picking? Lara-Hurd.
You know what, Jeremy? I'm excited, bro, because I get to Vegas next Friday.
Yep.
I'm going to be called the fight for the international audience. This is a very big fight because 154, in my opinion, is one of the most exciting in boxing. You got Jermell Charlo, you got Lara-Hurd, Arislandi Lara. You have so many talented guys that are really making their way, up the ladder. And I see a fight with Arislandi Lara. Lara, people say, well, Lara's boring. Lara is boring when he could just box you from the outside and he just has his way. He doesn't necessarily need to be that exciting. But when guys force him to be an exciting fighter and really push him, like how Lara-Hurd has and can and probably will do, Lara will have to sit down in his punches and he'll have to bang. He demonstrated that against Pedro Angulo, did Lara. He did that against Austin Trout. So I see Lara who's going to have to fight. But, man, Lara-Hurd, I've seen his last few fights. This guy, I've done his last few fights. I actually did his Showtime debut when he fought at the Hard Rock in November of 2015 against Frank Galarza. This guy's a southpaw. He can punch. He just walks you down. And mentally and physically, he just wears you out. So Lara-Hurd has this tenacity and this ability to just go and try to, finish you off, and he systematically breaks you down. And a lot of comes from that Cuban school of boxing, and he can also bang. I think this is a very compelling fight. I see Lara-Hurd with his physical ability and his will being able to outlast and finish off Arislandi Lara late in the 11th round next week at the Hard Rock. It's a loaded card. Also, Jeremy, in terms of 154, you got Nate Gallimore and Julian Williams. That's a heck of a fight, man.
Right.
Both guys, Williams fought Jamal Charlo for the world title, lost, has come back. Nate Gallimore has been on a run. The kid can stand and trade. He's from Chicago, originally from Jamaica. These guys have been talking smack back and forth. They're going to bang at the Hard Rock. This is an awesome card, Jeremy. I cannot wait and look forward to seeing you there, my man.
Cannot wait for this. Ray Flores, thank you so much, man. I know you're flying all over the world. You're a busy guy. But thank you so much for taking time out to talk with us. If people want to follow you online, where can they find you, brother?
All they can, man, is SBR Flores, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, SBR Flores. Check me out. And, with this being a Vegas weekend when it comes to the prognostications, good luck to Loyola Chicago being here from the great city of Chicago. So hopefully they go ahead and upset some of the odds makers there in Las Vegas, Jeremy.
There you go, man. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully they do. I got some money on them, so we'll see what happens. Thank you so much, Ray. I appreciate your time, brother.